G'day there everyone, and now are you still treating your SharePoint sites as glorified file shares, dumping grounds for all of your files and making it really difficult to find the files that you're looking for? Well, you're not alone, and in this video we are going to take a look at some core concepts of document management in SharePoint, because SharePoint really does excel at document management if done well and you understand the core concepts. So we are going to be tackling content types, metadata, document sets, strategic and good use of folders, and also how we can use views to simplify the finding of documents for you. So that being said, let's get stuck into the video. So here we are inside of a SharePoint site. It's just a simple team site. We've got our default document library here. We've got some documents in the library. Now, the first concept we're going to take a look at is metadata. So we can see that our files are listed and we've got these columns across the top here. Now, these columns are what we call metadata. Now, SharePoint comes with a set of default system metadata. So we can see there that we've got modified by. Now, when we click add a column and we go show or hide columns, we can see that these are all of the out-of-the-box system metadata that come with a default document library. But we can add our own custom metadata to these columns, all right? So, for example, in our documents library, we could add a column and we could call this, let's add a date and time column, and I'll click next. We're adding a piece of metadata to this document library. So that means that every time a document gets uploaded, we can set a, let's call this a due date, right? So we're talking about documents, let's say due date. And we are going to not include time and we'll just hit save. So what we've done there is we've added a column or metadata to our library. So that means now that if I select the details or the properties or we're in quick edit, then I now can set a due date for this document. All right, and that is filled out, and that is now part of the document or the metadata of this document library. Now you'll notice that we've got a few different options here, and these are the data types. So I could also have a choice column. So let's create a choice column, and let's call this we'll call this project document type, because the use case in the scenario we're going to tackle in this video is around project management. So I'm going to say project document type, and let's say proposal, we'll go a budget document, we'll go a schedule, all right? And we'll just leave it at those three for now. So we've now created another column, or we've created some metadata, and now we've got a project document type column as well. So that means that we can now set a due date, and we can also select a project document type, all right? Now, what we're doing there though, is we're creating these columns that are just on this document library. All right, so we couldn't reuse these. If we created another document library, then that would mean we would need to create columns in that document library as well. So let's now have a look at how we could create reusable columns. So instead of going add a column and then choosing it here, we can actually have what we call site columns. Now, what we've created there is a library column or a list column, okay? So if we wanted to, let's say, use due date across multiple document libraries, we might have different libraries for this particular site. We would need to create what we call a site column. So if I go into site information, I'll go to view all site settings, and you can see under web designer galleries here that I've got the ability to create a site column. So I can click create, and I'm going to now create a site column called due date, and I'm going to choose date and time, and we can create a new category or a new group. So I'm going to say create a new group called project management columns, and I'll leave everything else blank and we'll click OK. So now what we've done is we've created a site column that is reusable across this entire site. So to give you an example of where that comes in handy is if we go and create a new document library, let's call this we'll make this a blank library. We'll call this one submissions. Okay, we'll show it in the site navigation. Now, this is, again, just a standard default library here. Now, what we can do is rather than using and creating our own, we could go to library settings, we go to more library settings, and we can say add from existing site columns. Now, we can choose our group, project management columns, and we can say add, and we click OK. All right. So where this is becomes an advantage is that we can provide consistency of column names and also column types. Now, the date column, a choice column is a good example. So we might want to have a consistent choice column for document types, and then provide a set of values or options in that site column that are consistent. We can then add doc types to document libraries and it's the same values. All right, so we only have to create that site column once, and then we can reuse that over and over again on multiple libraries, even in lists as well, in this particular site. Now, this is contained in this entire site collection. Now, let's turn our, so that's the concept of metadata. Now, in our libraries, what that means is when we've got our metadata associated to our documents. Now, we're going to take a look at views a little bit later, but we can then now, let's say we've got these as budget. Rather than using folders inside folders inside folders, we can have what we call a flat library architecture here. So then I can say, I want to filter, I only want to see budgets, and there's all my budgets, right? So we're not having to put documents or work out where documents are supposed to live in some type of hierarchy. We just add a document to a library and we tag it appropriately to the type of content that it is. Now, let's turn our attention a little bit more now to another concept that we call content types. So a content type, if we think of a content type as a parent, as a thing, and we've got associated metadata for that particular thing. So if we take, let's use an analogy of let's say human being, yourself. So if we think of you as a content type, you've got certain hair color, certain skin tone, height, weight, eye color, those type of things. That is metadata about you, the person. Now, if we flip that a little bit now to documents, let's think of a project document or a policy. A policy is a good example. So the policy is the content type. Now, the policy could have metadata associated to that policy. Due date, policy owner, department, category, those sort of things that are metadata that are associated to that particular type of content. Whereas meeting minutes could be another content type, but that would have different metadata to that of a policy. All right. So it's a way for us to group metadata together for a particular type of content. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a custom document content type called project document. Now, to do that, we're going to go to site information and we're going to view all site settings, and we are going to create a content type. Now, everything's inherited in SharePoint. So SharePoint has an out-of-the-box and a default document content type. It's the one that's always there when we create a new document in a standard SharePoint site. So we're going to create a content type called project document. We can enter a description if we want to. we can then create a new category, which I am going to do, or we could use an existing category here. So to make things easier to manage, I'm going to create a new category. I'm going to call this, PM content types, all right? So project management content types, because we're going to create a couple more. Now the parent category down here, we can see that we've got the out of the box category. So I want to create from the document content type, and I want to choose document. That's the default that comes, and every document is of that type when we're in a document library. So now I'm going to hit create. So now we've got our custom content type. And you can see that it comes with a name and a title in our site columns. Now, a project document might have different metadata. All right. So rather than going into the site contents like we did before, I can use this option here. I can add from existing site column. Now I'm going to select that due date that I've already created, and I'm going to hit save. So that's always going to be there when we add and use this project document content type. Now, another thing we're going to create is we're going to create a new site column, and we're going to call this one document status. And we'll use an existing category because remember we created our project management columns category earlier. I'm going to say that this is a choice column, and let's give it some options. So I'm going to say in review, approved, issued, and archived as our choices. All right. Now I am going to hit save. So we see we've got document status. Now I'm going to add a few more. So I'm going to create a new site column. I'm going to call this project, let's call this project stage. I'm going to use the existing category. I'm going to make this a choice column again, and I'm going to say planning, execution, or delivery, one of the two, and we'll go closure, all right, as our options. Don't need a fourth, and I'm going to hit save. So we've now got a project stage. I'm also going to create a new site column, and I'll call this project document type. And again, I'm going to choose choice. All right, so I'll pop it in that category. We'll choose a choice column here, and we'll go proposal. We'll go a budget document. We'll go schedule. We'll go a risk assessment, and we might also go report. All right, so we'll just leave it at those for now. So now we've got our document type columns. Now let's just make this a little bit of a different color. Let's go purple, and we'll hit save. So our project document content type is now taking shape. All right, so let's now have a look and see how we add this content type to our library. So I'm going to now just navigate my way back to our library here. So I'm going to go back into documents. Now, what we need to do here is I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. So let's go into library settings, and I'm going to go more library settings. And we are going to remove these columns. All right, so I'm going to say due date. Let's remove that. So I'm just, because we've only associated and added this to this library, so it's not going to affect what we've just done. All right, and then I'm going to say project document type. Again, I'm going to remove that. So we'll scroll down and we'll hit delete, and we'll click OK. All right, now the last thing we're going to do, I'm just going to go to submissions. I'm going to go to this document library. I'll go to library settings, more library settings, and let's delete this document library. And now we've got a nice clean canvas to work with. So for our documents, here's our documents that have been uploaded. Okay, now what we can do now is we can go add a column. Now we can go down the bottom here and go add a content type. So if I go add content type, you'll notice that I get the option to select project document from that user interface. The other way that we can do it is if we go to library settings, more library settings, and I go to advanced settings, and then I can click on allow management of content types. Then I can click on OK. And then from this area here, I can say add from existing content types. And then I could choose my PM content types, and there is my project document, and I can click OK. And then that is now added to our document library. So if we go back to documents, on our new menu, we can see that we've got our out-of-the-box document content type, and we've also got project document. Now, as a little bit of a best practice here, I'm going to use this document library just to manage my project documents. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show or hide a column. Now, I want to remove that document content type. All right, so what we will do is we are going to select, let's do it this way. I'm going to select all documents and I'll go to details. Because we've got two content types, I can change the content type here. So I don't want document. I want these to be of the content type project document. And you can see when I do that, it shows me the metadata that's associated to that new content type. Now I'm going to hit save because it won't let you remove that default document content type because it was in use by those documents. So now that I've changed it over to project document, I can come in here and I can say, delete this content type. And then that is now removed. So when I go back to documents and I go to new, you can see I've only got that one document. But what about all the Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all that sort of stuff? I can hit edit, and I'm not going to use Word. I'm going to leave that off, but I am going to choose all of these ones. Okay, so you can see here that I can see new and I've got my options. Now, the other way of doing this, so I could take this off and I could just choose Word because we've only got the one content type. So that project document content type is the default. All right, there is no other content type. So every time that I upload a document or create a new document, it is going to be of that content type. Now, let's show or hide some columns because I want to see those columns that we've got associated. So I've got due date, document status, project stage, project document type, and I'll click apply. Now I'm just going to move these so we can drag and drop these columns in the order that we want. And you can see that we've got these columns that have now been added. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and edit these in grid view. Now, I'm going to just put the due date for these at the end of this month, and I'll just use all of those. I've got a document status. Let's just add some metadata. I'll go in review. I'll go approved, issued, approved, archived, and in review. Project stage, these are all in the planning stage. These are in the execution. Now that's closure and that's closure. We might have this one as our risk assessment. All right. So now we've got some, and let's now exit grid view. So now we've got our metadata set. So what that allows us again to do is do some slicing and dicing and filtering and creating views and just getting to the documents that we need to. So you can see here, if I go filter by in review, I've got the ability just to narrow down. I can go again, so I can go filter by planning, we'll go planning, and now we're filtered. All right, so we've got that kind of cascading way of navigating or finding our files. Now, we can also use that metadata to create views. Now, in the top right-hand corner here, we've got all documents. Now, we can create additional views. So let's say we want to create a view of all of our approved documents. So I'm going to create a new view. I'm going to call this approved documents, and we'll click create. Now, let's create a view. So I'm going to say filter by approved, and I'll click apply, and then I'll click save view, and now approved documents has now been set. So I've got my all documents, and I've also now got my, if I just refresh, just to ensure that appears, and then I've got my approved documents. So you can see there that it's really easy for us to start to create our own views. Now the great thing about this is that these have links, right, or the URLs, sorry. So we can link to this view. So if I copy this view here, and let's say I go back to my home page, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight how you could potentially create a little dashboard here. So I am going to use this quick links link here. I'm going to say from a link, and I'm going to paste in the URL of that approved documents view that I just created. So I'm going to say approved documents. Let's change our icon, and we'll choose, let's see if we've got an approve. This one will do, document approval. We'll click select, and I'm going to delete this one. I'll click republish. So what I've done there is I've just grabbed the link of the view that I've just created, and now I can click that link and I'm directly taken to that view of approved documents, and then I can change back to all docs if I wanted to as well. Okay, so by creating a content type, that now allows us to be more consistent in the information and the metadata that's associated to that project document. Now, there's obviously a number of things, especially with project documents, that we might want to capture as well. So if we wanted to add more metadata to that content type, we still can do that. So if we go back into site information and we go to view all site settings, and I'm going to go to site content types, I'm going to find our content type. Now let's just group by category here, and we'll go into PM content types, and we'll go to project document. Now, what if we wanted to have maybe a project ID or a project name? So if I go to new site column, I'm going to call this project name, and I'll use an existing category. Now this one I'm going to use a single line of text. So I'll say project name, and maybe we also want to have a project ID. All right, so let's say project ID, and we're going to say a single line of text. We'll just use a single line of text again for that. We'll hit save, and maybe we want to have a department. All right, department name, like so. And this one, I'm going to choose a choice column, and we'll go IT, HR, finance, legal. Let's just go executive team. All right, and we'll keep it just at that, and we'll hit save. So now we've just added a few more columns to our content type. Now we don't have to go back. If this content type was added to multiple libraries, then we just do it here, and then it's replicated to wherever that content type has been added. So if I go back to my library now, and I go to documents, now it's not going to be in this view though, so we'd still need to add the columns, so show or hide columns, but you can see I've got these now made available to me. Now I'm just going to hide these columns here. So I'm going to hide modified, and I'm going to hide modified by. Column settings, hide this column, hide this column. All right. So now if we just edit in grid view, and I'm going to say Copilot leadership sprint, and we've got that. We've got a project ID of, let's just go 001, and a department, we'll go executive, and I'll just fill all that out as well. So now what we've got is 3 more columns. We've got our project name, we've got our ID, and we've got our department. Now if we then had different departments or different documents with different departments, different project IDs, and different project names, then we could do some filtering on those. So if let's say I select these, I'll edit in grid view. Let's change the project name to SharePoint Intranet. And these 3 can be for the SharePoint Intranet project, and the ID can be 002, and we'll just do that. Let's also change the team to IT for these ones, or the department, and these are all the documents that are then part of the SharePoint intranet project of that ID and for that department. So now we could do some views. So let's say we want to create a new view, and we want to say, let's say grouped by project. All right, so we'll hit create. So now I'm going to say group by project name, and our view has now changed, and we've got a grouped view of our documents. I'm going to save that view, and we're good to go. So now we've got all documents, we've got approved documents, and now we've got, again, I'm just going to refresh, and now we've got another new view called grouped by project. Okay. So you can start to see how metadata really does become beneficial and does enhance that user experience about how we can find information. We're not navigating our way through a hierarchy of folder structures and having to think about where do I put that file. We actually just fill out that content. Now, the next concept that we're going to take a look at, because it improves on this, right? So we've added, for example, we've added project name, project ID, and departments. We'd have to do that to every single document. Now, there's another feature of SharePoint document libraries that are called document sets. Now, document sets are really folders on steroids, and they're a really good way to group related documents. And project management is a really good example, because all of the documents that relate to a single project are really good to be kept together. Now, we could do this, right? But we'd have to do that for every single document. What if we could set up a structure that we could create really a container or a set ready to go for our project that we could just add documents to, and that we set the metadata at the project level, as opposed to having to do all of that at each single document. That's what we're going to tackle next. They're called document sets. Okay, so let's now create a document set or a project. And we're going to use document sets to create new projects and then group all of our project documents together. So let's go into our site information. We're going to view all site settings. Now, we're going to create a custom content type for a document set. But there's one thing we need to do first. And in this, under site collection administration, under site collection features, we actually have to create and enable the document set feature. So we're going to activate that. Now, the reason we would use document sets in this scenario is that we can apply and create metadata at the document set level. So when we go new document set from the new menu, then we get presented with a form that allows us to fill out that metadata. Whereas with a folder, we don't get that option and the ability to do that. So we've now got our document sets enabled. I then will go into my site settings, and I will go into site content types. Now, like we did previously with our project document, we're going to create a new content type, and we're going to say new project. Okay, so think of, especially when you're naming these, think of how when you go to the new menu, what that term is that you want in that new menu. So I want new project, all right? So I wouldn't say new project document or new project content type or something like that. I want new project. So again, I'm going to use an existing category because we've already got one set up called PM content types. The parent category this time is going to change. It's not going to be a document, it's going to be a document set. You can see I've only got one option there for the content type, and now I'm going to hit create. So we've got our document set. Now, this is where site columns come in handy, because we had already created all of these site columns. Rather than have those on the actual documents, I want to have these and move these up a level to the project. So there are, for example, the document type, which doesn't make sense to be on a document set level, but all the project related ones do. So I might say, let's go add from existing content types. Let's have a look at what we've got. So from here, I'm going to say department. I'm going to say the project ID, the project name, and the project stage are all relevant to be at this top level. Now I'm going to hit save. There's a couple of other things that I'm going to add at this level. I'm going to add two more. I'm going to add a new site column called, actually I'm going to add three more. Project manager. And we're going to use the existing column, project management. Now this is going to be a personal group, and we're going to go show profiles, and there's our project manager. We're going to create a project start date. This one's going to be a date and time column. So we'll go date and time, we'll hit save, and we'll go a new site column for project close date. And again, our category and our column, and we'll hit save. So now we've got our project content type document set. Okay, so let's go back to our site. Now I'm going to create a new library for this. All right, so I'm going to use a new library called, and let's call this projects, and we'll hit create. Now that's going to create a brand new blank document library. So I am going to go into site information. I'm going to go view all site settings. I'm going to go to, sorry, that's not where I'm going to go. I'm going to go into the library settings. So I need to go to library settings, and I need to go to more library settings. And then we will go to advanced. We will then go to enable, allow management of content types. I'm going to scroll down the bottom, and we're going to click OK. Then we're going to add two content types. We're going to add our project and also our project document content type as well. All right, so I'm going to go to my PM. I'm going to choose both of these and I click OK. Now the first thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to delete or remove this document content type. So I'm going to delete, I'll click OK, and now we're nice and clean. So we've got a new project and a new project document. When I click on new project, I then get presented with the form that with the metadata. All right, so I can say Copilot leadership leader, let's just look at the spelling, leadership sprint. We can give it a description if we want to. It is for the exec team. And in actual fact, we actually don't need the project name here. So I'm going to go back and fix this up. So we'll go to project stage is just planning. Project manager is me. And the start date is going to be the 29th. We don't have an end date yet. Project ID can be Copilot-01. Now, the reason we don't need a project name here now is because we've got the name of this document set, which can actually, in fact, be the project name. So I'm going to hit save. So the first thing we'll do is let's tidy this up. So I'm going to go to library settings and I go more library settings. And you can see that we've got that there. Then I'm going to go to site settings. I'm going to go to site content types. I am going to group by category, and I'm going to go into my project, and you can see that I've got my my columns here. I'm going to remove this site column because I don't want that there anymore. All right. Now, let's just do a little bit more tidy up. So I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to go back into projects. I'm going to go back into library settings, more library settings. Then let's have a look here. So we can see that we've got here where we've got start date, end date, project name. I am going to remove this because we don't want this anymore. I'm going to delete that. And now if I go back into projects, we should be good to go. Now I am going to show or hide columns. I want project ID, stage, manager, start date, end date, and department, and I'll hit apply. So they're my columns. I'm going to hide modified, hide, and I'm going to hide. All right. So now what we've got is a folder, or a folder on steroids, that is called Project Copilot Leadership Sprint. But you can see, let's now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to drag a document into here. Okay. Now we can see here that is now been uploaded, but there's no metadata associated to it. So what we're going to do, just to show what the content types are, I am going to go in and we're going to go to all documents view, and I'm going to turn on the content type. Let's have a look here, the content type option here. So we'll go, okay, so you can see that the content type is project. I'll jump into here and you can see that that is document, which is not what we want, right? So we are going to go into library settings, and let's just take a look and see what's happened here. So we can see here that document has snuck back in, all right? Now there's a reason for that. That is because the default document of our content type is actually document. So let's have a look and see how we fix that. So I am going to go into my project. I am going to go into document set settings, and you can see here the content types that are allowed in this document set is document, but I don't want that. I want to remove that. But here again, we've got this content type is in use. That's because we've got a document that is set to use that content type in here. So what I need to do is I need to delete this. And I also then need to go to the recycle bin, and I then also need to delete this. So I'm actually going to delete this. I'm not finished yet, because we then got to go to the second stage recycle bin, and then, oh, we don't want to restore those. Silly me. And it's good to keep these little bits in the video as well. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go delete. I'm going to go to recycle bin. I'm going to delete from the first stage recycle bin. Then I will go empty recycle bin, and there we've got our documents are now done. So now if I go back into the library settings, let's just go back in there. We're all done. So if I go back into my library settings, I'll go to more library settings. Now I can delete this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this content type. I'm going to go into project. Now, when I go back to the project, document set settings, I'm going to remove this. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to add. So I'm going to go add project. I want a project document as our default. I want to remove that. Okay. We're going to come back to this in a minute, and I'll click OK. So now what happens? Now that I'm in my project, in my document set here, and I drag and drop, let's have a look. You can see that now that document is a project document. It's not the default document content type. All right. And this metadata here is actually not that's coming from the document set. So it's not on our document. But if we wanted that on our document, then in our, which can make sense, right? So if we wanted to maybe look at, have that metadata associated to the documents as well, we could use what we call shared columns. So I'm going to go back into more library settings. I'm going to go back into project. I'm going to go back to my document set settings, and I can say use shared columns. So you can see, select which values for the document set should be automatically synced to all the documents contained in the set. So I'm going to say project ID and project stage, and we'll go project manager, and we'll click OK. So now what's going to happen is if I go back into projects and I go back into here, Now, it's not going to use it for pre-existing documents. So I'm going to delete this. Okay. Now, if I go back up to here, we can see that we've got our metadata set. If I drag a new document across, let's have a look. Now that we've set that as shared columns, you can see that that document gets the project ID, the project stage, and the project manager values from the parent, from the document set, because we're sharing those columns. All right. Now, we might want to create a view for project documents that only shows the metadata that we need. Okay, because remembering that our project document has a project document type as well. So if I go to all documents here, I want to create a new view. I want to call this view project documents, and I'm going to click OK. So now that we've got our project documents, I don't want to have department. I don't want to have start date and end date. So I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide my project close date. Let's hide this as well because I don't think we need that anymore. And I'll click add and I'll go show or hide. But I do want to have our project document type here. All right. So we can see I've now got my project document type. Let's just set that. So we'll set that to document status. Actually, we need document status as well. So we need to add that and the due date. So we'll add our project management columns there. So we'll go, this is a proposal, and we'll click out of that. We'll go into show and we'll go, let's grab our document status due date as well. And we'll click OK. And there we've got our due date and our document status in there. We're going to save our view. But what we're going to notice is that we've got all documents here. And if I go inside of a document inside of a document set, we're still set at all documents, and I would have to change over to project documents. But what if we could create the default view inside of that document set? Well, as luck would have it, we can. So if I go into my site information, I'm going to go into view all site settings, my content types, and then I'm going to adjust again. I'm going to adjust, actually, that's not where I want to be. I want to go to library settings. So let's go to projects. I want to go to library settings, more library settings, and then I want to open up my project document, project content type, and I'll go to document set settings here. And let's have a look. If I scroll down, I've got my welcome page view. I don't want it to be all documents. I want it to be project documents. Now I'll click OK. So now that we've clicked OK, if I now go back to my library, I've got my view of all documents here, which is all of my project. And let me just hide this. We'll hide that. And then now if we go inside of our document set, what we should see, and you can see there, that has now changed over. So we've now got our project documents view. So if I add, let's just drag and drop a few more documents across here, you can see that we get the inherited or the shared columns. I'm going to edit in grid view. Let's go budget, we'll go schedule, and we'll go risk assessment. We'll go due date, and we'll just use the same due date for these just to be nice and quick here. We'll go issued, we'll go approved, and we'll go archived. All right. So now let's exit grid view. And now we've got a nice looking project. If we go inside of our project, we've got document types, we've got IDs, we've got stage, we've got manager. Let's change this column a little bit, right? So let's make this show profile photos. And now we should have our profile, or actually that will be set at the top level. So we can go back and change that. So now when we come into our project, we can say, right, show me all of the budgets, etc., etc. But let's take this a little bit more. So I'm going to go and say group by project, and we can say save this view. And now I've got all of my documents that are now grouped by project or grouped by document type. So if we go back out, we'll go back into our project, and then we've got that view that has just been updated. We could create more views, additional views if we wanted to as well, or we could just adjust this view and create whatever we needed. So by having the ability to create a document set, we can see here, now we've got all of our project documents contained inside of this container of our project that is called a document set. And this library now can have all of our projects that are inside of these document sets, and we can then do some reporting or do some views and see where all of our projects are at, our stages, our managers, our departments, and everything like that as well. All right, so it does give us a lot more flexibility and capabilities from a document management side of things to really enhance how we go about finding things as well. So that being said, let's now look at how we can create, I guess, this concept of cascading metadata. But before we do that, we're going to have a look at folders. Now, I know we haven't spoken about folders yet, and folders sometimes get a bit of a bad rap. But inside of let's say it's a project, we might want to have a structured approach inside of our project, for example. Or we might want to secure content. There might be a way, a need to have a secured location inside of a project in this setup to only certain people. Now, we can't secure content based on metadata, but we can secure content based on folders. So folders do have a use, all right? Now, how do we go about doing that? So we could create folders inside here, right? So we could go new and then go new folder, all right? And that creates a new folder inside of our content, our document set or our project. But we can also make that more structured and make that default and make folders available from the outset. So when we go new project, a set of folders is already there. How do we do that? Let's have a look. So I'm going to go to site information. I'm going to go to view all site settings. Now I am going to go to site content types, and I'm going to find my, and I'm going to filter. I'm going to go show, and I'm going to go apply. Now we can do this in our content type. So I'm going to say save my view as PM CTs. All right, so they're my project management content types. I'm going to go to project. Now we can go into document set settings. Now under here, we've got our default content. So we could, let's go, and because we did this at the library level last time, not at the content type level. So I'm going to say project document, okay? And the content type is project document, and the folder name is going to be, what are the phases? So we might go 01 planning as our phase. I'm going to upload a document as a template. All right, so let me just find a document to use, and we'll use that, and we'll go add. Now the next one we're going to use is, we're going to say 01x02. Let's go delivery. All right, so we'll go delivery as our project. We'll upload another file as our template, and then we're going to choose 03, and we will say 03 can be closure docs. And again, we're going to upload a file, and we will hit add. Let's just check that we've got everything set. We've got all of this set. We're actually going to do our shared columns here. Let's just jump back and remember what our shared columns were in our document set that we set, because remembering we set that at the library level. So ID, stage, and manager. So ID, stage, and manager, we're going to share and we'll hit save. All right. So let's have a look and see what those changes now make. So I'm going to jump out of here. Let's go to projects. And now you can see that we change over to all documents, and I'll go new project. Let's have a look and see what happens. So let's go for a new project of SharePoint intranet. Department name is going to be IT. ID can be Intrazone 01. Stage is in execution. Project manager is myself. Start date can be then, and we'll hit save. So let's have a look. So this is now being created. The project's being created for us. Now you can see that inside of this project now, we've got our columns, right? Or we've got our folders. So we can then, we'd need to adjust our view here because we created our view for documents. But you'll notice that inside, we've got our leadership sprint here, which is grouped. But inside of this one now, we've got our folder structure. Okay, so by having that structured approach, now I probably wouldn't go too far down here, like 2 or 3 levels deep, but it does give us that option and that ability, which means we could also, we could have some folder colors, I guess, but we could also set and manage access to that folder inside of that project if we wanted to have that that section of the project really, really tied away and secure as well. All right. So there are some good uses for folders if we plan it correctly, and that we keep it structured. All right. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is in library settings, and I'm going to go to more library settings here, and we can see that under column default values. So if we wanted to set values that are default, then we could also, if we wanted to do that, set our default column values at this level as well. Now, the last thing we're going to take a look at is if we do introduce folders, there might be times where you might just want to have a view that's got the no folder. So you've just got that flat hierarchy. So given the fact that we've got some shared columns here on our document sets, we can create a view, and I'm going to go into my library settings here. We can have a view that actually shows all the files inside of our projects as well. So now we need to do this from down here. So I'm going to create a new view from the library settings. I'm going to clone the all documents view, but there's going to be a difference. I'm going to just call this one no folders. And I am going to scroll down here to folders, and I'm going to choose show all items without folders. Okay. And I'll go okay. Then if I go over to no folders, you'll notice that the files appear now, as well as the document sets. Okay, so I'm flattening it out, and now because we've got a few shared columns here, namely project ID, we could say filter by the project ID, because we've got those shared columns that are coming from the document set and being shared with all the documents. They are now there, and we can create our views and everything like that as well. So there are the best of both worlds. We could have our folder structure as well as a view that shows all of our files in more of a flat structure with no files as well, and still get the benefits of the metadata as well. So there we have it. SharePoint document management, more of an advanced document management, a way that you can start to use your SharePoint environments, your SharePoint libraries, more than just a glorified file repository, and then also make it easier and a more structured, consistent way of managing your files so that it becomes less of a dumping ground and a lot easier for your users to be able to find documents in a more streamlined and structured way. So I really hope that masterclass gives you some value. Take it, use it, implement bits and pieces of it, and I hope you improve the way that SharePoint is being used in your organization. Thanks for watching.